Hey guys, welcome back to the video. In this one, I'm working with a spree again, who you guys saw in a previous video. He was known to do some rearing and have some challenges with attacking people and things like that. And so we've done a few days of groundwork with him, got him a little more confident. And now I'm gonna see if I can get him to accept the saddle better and hopefully put a first ride on him. So when I first saddled him, I didn't video the session. I didn't quite realize how much trouble he was gonna have with it. But we did get a little clip that we'll show you guys right here. And as you can see, he really kind of felt bound up by that saddle and kind of thought about going up and bronking around. And so before I saddle him today, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a lariat rope kind of, not really on his flank, but just kind of on his midsection. The reason I like the lariat rope is I can pull it tight, and if he gets bronky and jumps around, I can keep it tight. If he gets relaxed, I can put slack in it. And that's an option I don't have with the cinches on the saddle. And so I'm just trying to set him up for success. I'm not trying to just address the saddle issue. I'm trying to help this horse understand pressure, because when he gets bothered, he gets very defensive and then he goes up. And that's kind of an innate response for him. He was a jumping horse, and that's kind of his response to pressure. So anything I can do to get him to think through pressure and understand it better is what I'm all about. And so I'm gonna do this little kind of baby step here with getting him used to the lariat rope before I go ahead and saddle him up and hopefully put a little ride on him. So he's kind of given me everything I need on the ground to feel like I should ride him, except accepting the saddle. And so once he is accepting the saddle, then I'll feel better about it. It's, you know, getting bucked off because the horse got bothered by the back cinch on a Western saddle is not a great reason to get bucked off, because that's something you can just take a little bit of time and work through on the ground, like I'm doing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of snug it up a little bit. He's already a little bit stuck. So I'm gonna try to keep just a little bit of tension on it. Now, if he can just move forward here without bronking, I'll go ahead and release that rope. Like right there. That was good. But it's not on his flank yet, it's just a little further back. But I'm really happy with this. If he can just kind of wear this like that, we'll take that 100%. Again, I'm not quite thinking he needs a flank rope. I'm more thinking he needs to accept the back cinch on a Western saddle. Now that's a little bit more of a flank rope. But I want him to find relief moving forward, not stopping. He's being good there, so I'll go ahead and drop it down. That's really good. I really like that. So what that tells me is, and again, it's not about him being perfect with accepting a flank rope. He chose to not go to bronc in there. He didn't get tight. He didn't do any grunting or anything with his breathing. So I'm gonna take that as a win right there. And that was a very good response for him. In the first video, if you haven't seen that, I put the lariat rope around his hindquarters and around a hind leg and that sort of thing. But today is the first time I'm doing it here, and he didn't really have any major responses to that. I think, you know, he hadn't been rode in quite a few years and hadn't had a back cinch or a Western saddle on, so we did a little finding out with that. And then this is, again, just a way to release him to being saddled and set that up for success. So I'm gonna go ahead and saddle him up now. I'm also probably gonna put a snaffle on him. He was used to being rode in a snaffle when he was being rode. And so, you know, with a horse like this, I would always be tempted to ride them in a halter, but he pushes on the halter quite a bit. And if there were perfect conditions, like let's say he was my horse and I had all the time in the world, I probably would spend a few more weeks doing groundwork with him, get him soft for the halter, ride him in a Bosal or something like that. I don't really have the luxury of that much time with him, just based on life and my schedule and the owner's schedule and everything like that. And so he's not doing anything to make me think, unless I put the snaffle on and we have some issues, but he's not doing anything to make me think he has an issue with the bit. So we're gonna proceed with the snaffle. But just so you know, normally with a horse with issues with a particular bit or something, I like to find kind of a workaround and just do something different that they're not expecting. like putting a bosal or something on him versus that, but I don't have a round pen yet to ride him in, and if I need to go ahead and bend him, I'd feel more comfortable with a snaffle. You ultimately have a lot more control in a snaffle than I would a rope halter, so that's what I'm going with this time. Now, if I put the snaffle on him here in a second and he has a lot of issues with it, well, then that might be a different story. You might have to change plans. Now, when I saddle him, because he went to bronking before pretty strong, I'm going to go ahead and keep him kind of away from the fence, and I'm also going to have a stick and flag in my hands so that if he goes to jump on me, we'll hopefully be able to interrupt that thought. Now, where you saw him bucking in that video, I'm setting the back cinch at the exact same location. And my point is, it's pretty loose. I didn't have it tight on him in that video, and so I think he just kind of hadn't been saddled in a while. The front cinch needs to be snug enough that if they do go to bucking, the saddle's not going to roll on them. That back cinch, as you can see, plenty of room there. I hadn't have it tightened up on him to where like you could rope off it or something like that. Not that I'd rope off the saddle anyways, but you know what I mean. But I also don't need it just bouncing around back there. So once I get them cinched up, I kind of like them just stand there and breathe. I kind of observe their facial expressions. Are they blinking? Where are their ears at? Where's their head at? He's kind of relaxing and doesn't seem too bothered by it. His tail's soft. So we'll go ahead and ask him to step off here. So on a video on Patreon that I posted, I started teaching this horse to put his head down when I lift up my hand here. So if anybody's kind of interested in seeing my full program, I have that on my Patreon page. I have a fundamental series. That's what I'm taking this horse through right now, and just kind of filling in the holes in his understanding of pressure and training. That's a great series to take your horse through and see where your horse is at with everything. It's kind of where I'd recommend everybody start, and I'll leave a link in the description for that Patreon page. So you see there, he got a little stuck. He's pretty introverted, and so that kind of happens at times. And you know, I'm looking to, I don't want to overexpose him, but I'm not looking to have him be underexposed either, you know. And so something I might try here is just kind of suddenly work that flag a little bit and see if, so I like that he didn't go to bucking there. That's really good. But sometimes you got to kind of test things out a little bit just to make sure that if I was on him and something goosed him, whether it was me or something out of my control, could he think through that pressure? You know, I spent quite a bit of time over the past few days working this flag and kind of getting him used to that. So what I'm getting at with that little exposure test there is, I see a lot of people overexpose a horse and then they kind of get a bad rap for doing too much. But on the flip side of it, if you underexpose a horse, that could get you put in the hospital too. You know, if they're not really prepared and can handle some pressure riding, especially if they have some known issues. There's a happy medium in there where I'm trying to help this horse understand pressure, kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, teaching him how to accept this flag, kind of getting used to it. And what the whole here is in his understanding is he needs to read my intention, not the flag. The flag has a lot of energy right now, but my intention is quiet. You can hear it in my voice. You can see it in my movements. I'm not tense or anxious or mad or anything like that. And so it's really important to develop this in a horse. Everybody that owns a horse would love the idea that if you're calm, your horse will be calm. But the truth is you have to teach a horse to follow your intention so that if you are calm, he can learn to be calm. But if you don't take the time to teach that to him, you can end up in a scenario where maybe you were just calm as could be up there, but something else happened and scared your horse, and now you're riding a very not calm prey animal, which can be dangerous. Leave a comment below if you've been in that situation where you were calm but your horse became uncalm, and tell me a little bit about that situation that you were in. Most people that own horses have a story or several that they could tell, including me. I got plenty of stories of paid some stupid tax on some things. But that's why nowadays, as I get a little older, not that I'm old, but as I get more experienced and a few more years and horses under me, I start focusing more on being prepared instead of lucky. He'd rather stop to try to get this pressure to go away. But I'm saying to him, hey, we can get this pressure to go away, but you got to do it by trotting softly on that circle. That was a nice one. Or even coming to a walk, and then I'll stop him over here because he was trying to stop over here. It's a bunch of little strategy there. Good boy. So what my plan is now is I'm going to go ahead and put a snaffle on him and see what his understanding is of the bit. See if he can back up, see if he can flex laterally, and just do a few of those kind of tests there. I'm choosing to leave my halter on here as I bridle him. And I'm doing that because he was probably used to being rode with a noseband on whatever gear they had on. In fact, the bridle that the owner dropped off, it had a snaffle mouthpiece with a noseband. And so just to kind of give him a little bit of familiarity, I'm going to leave this halter on today just to see. So what I like to do here with a colt or a horse I'm not too sure of is I'll just use the stirrup here, see if I can create a little, what I call relaxed rein. I want them to just walk forward and around and kind of give to that bit as they're doing it. Just kind of see what that response is. With this horse, because he gets tight through his rib cage, which is when he would buck or rear or something, I want to make sure that he's not, if I was riding him and put my leg on him there, it's a little safety check. See what he thinks of that. He seems to be giving to the bit pretty nicely. I like that. He can back up off of both reins a little bit pushy there. Test out his lateral flexion. So that's kind of a problem right there. You can see how much he's thinking about reacting to that. Just me tipping his nose. Whoop. So that's not a great response. So if I was sitting on him and I took a hold of that rein, you could see how upset he would be. So that's a real interesting response. You don't see that all that often. So all I did was ask him to kind of bend his head, and I did it real soft and slow. Now there, if he braces, I got to try to hold right there. But that would be a problem right there that'd get you into trouble if you were sitting on him. And if you're sitting on him and you tried to bend him, that ain't gonna go so well. So that's what we call a red light. And when you're thinking about riding a green colt or a green horse that has some known issues, you're looking for red lights, yellow lights, and green lights. Green lights, and we were getting all green lights until that point. And that was a big old red light, because not only did he take the rein out of my hand and pull on it real hard, but he did it with a lot of intensity. There we go. So you can see if you put him in a bind right here, instead of working through that pressure, he knows to kind of fight his way out of it. So I'm trying just to be a post right there. So I'm trying to fix my hand at his shoulder here so that when he gives, I can give. Much better. Much better. But that is going to be my go-to safety net when I'm sitting on him, and so that has to be a really bright yellow or bright green light in order for me to want to climb on, because we're not in a hurry. And you know, he's been sitting in a pasture for years. Me taking a couple extra days to make sure he's good with the bit is not a lot in the scheme of things. For me, it's not about cowboying up and seeing what I can get done, although I'm sure you guys would enjoy that for the videos. It's about helping the horse understand pressure and working with the horse where he's at. You know, I was fully intending on riding today until that kind of dramatic response there, and that just tells me. The other part is we're quite a ways into the session here. It took me a while to kind of get to this point, and so it won't hurt him at all to kind of go through this a couple of more days and just get a little more sure of things. And now I know I need to spend a bit more time with the bit, that has some holes in it of his understanding of pressure. You can see how much he's throwing his head around. What's interesting is he knows lateral flexion very well with the halter. When you ask him to bend his head around, he gave no problem. So I kind of expected it to be the same with the bit, but he's definitely got some history there with that bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cross my reins over here. Well, maybe not. I think I'm going to take them off. And I'm going to attach my lead rope to the bit, and I'm just going to work them on a circle a little bit off that bit and test that out a little bit further. I'm not sure if you guys have ever had a horse flip over on you. I've had about 3 of them flip over on me over my career, and it is not a fun experience. One of them happened so fast, I don't even know how I lived through the experience. So I'm basically just doing the same thing, just now on a circle. I'm fixing my hand here, and I'm gonna go ahead and push his ribs out and just ask him to walk a circle and give. And but for me, I would like to see him accept this pressure for a few days wearing the saddle before I crawl on him. Because again, we're not in a big hurry. We're about set. I'm trying to prepare this horse for his owner to be able to ride, not just kind of get a ride on and try to live through it. And it's pretty clear there that he had some trouble with accepting and yielding to the bit. And that comes from previous bad experiences, you know. Like, that's not a typical response from a colt that's never been ridden. That's a response from a horse who's been ridden and pulled on and kind of had somebody release at the wrong time or put too much pressure on at the wrong time. That's more of a learned behavior. There, I like how he's accepting that. That's pretty good. So I'm going to do one more test with him here. You can see he got a little defensive there. So the last and final test is I'm going to put my lead rope around the saddle and ask him to turn and work his way out of that bind. And this is a test that we do on colts. And this kind of takes a similar shape as the angle that the rider would be using what we call an indirect rein in. And so if he gives, I'm just going to go ahead and take it. And all he's got to do is just yield his hindquarters and walk his way out of the circle or turn his front end around. But this is a perfect exercise to help make sure this horse understands how to give to pressure. Because from this position, I can't tell him or make him turn around. All I can do is set it up and wait for him to kind of find the answer. Now, what he doesn't need, I'm not pulling on this in any way. I'm just kind of sitting here. I'm ready to hold if he tries to take his head back. But now we just need to wait on him to work his way out of that. The other interesting thing is if I were to do this with the halter on, he would turn around right away. He does this very easily with the halter, but it's that bit that he's getting his feet a little bit stuck and kind of locked up with. Perfect. Perfect. Really good. So he was a little stuck there. Took him a minute to kind of get unwound, but we've been at this for over an hour already, so I think we're going to quit on that note. Got him softer on that right side. Now I have a bit more information, literally, about how he is with the bit. So what that means for me is tomorrow when I bring him out, I'm going to put the bit on right away, and I'm going to do a few more yields and make sure he's really good with that and understanding the pressure from that, since he seems to have some baggage from the snaffle bit on there. We're going to go from there. So stay tuned for the next part.